The Archer is the last class we have to cover here in Wartales. Follow this guide and you too can become a master of killing your enemies from afar. The Archer is an entirely range-focused damage dealer characterized by having low health, low movement, and a high variance in terms of their damage. Their key stats are going to be dexterity and movement, trying to overcome the handicaps of only having 6 meters of movement as a base value rather than the 10 that the other classes receive. You can also round out the build going with a lot of critical hit if you want to have a critical-focused build for your Archer, planning on leveraging some of the unique equipment options that they can utilize. Clint here has been leveled all the way up to level 5 without taking any specializations, so we are going to do a little bit of save scumming to be able to show off all of his abilities, the different upgrades that you can give these using skill mastery tomes. We're also going to cover the different equipment options as I have my stack of bows here in inventory, and go ahead and give all the tips and tricks that I have picked up on how to play the Archer from my over 100 hours with the game. Check the timestamps if you want to see something in particular, but our very first build is going to be the Beastmaster. Grabbing Valorous Support for Valor Point Generation, then we grab a Beastmaster here. Unfortunately, these specializations don't give us extra stats like some of the other classes do. I'm still unsure why that is inconsistent across the different classes. And finally, we grab Beast Mastery as our passive because those two are married together. Our first skill, Attack. All allied animals next to the target, attack them with an attack of opportunity, and this has a range of 12 meters, so it has an enormous range. You can reach pretty much halfway across the battlefield with this, so you don't have to have your Archer tied to his animal companions to be able to get this to work. Giving it the mastery point, then we are able to give all of the animals Fury before they make the attack, increasing their damage by 50%. The passive Beast Mastery allows animals to be controlled in battle rather than appearing randomly in the initiative and only moving forward to attack the closest enemy. And when we apply the skill mastery to the passive, the animals will be healing for 5% of their maximum health every single turn. Now, animal companions are quite flimsy compared to your standard companions because you're not able to give them any equipment or armor, so healing 5% is not as great as it probably sounds. It's going to take a couple rounds for them to be able to heal enough to actually withstand one extra hit from an enemy, but it is nice to be able to see, and with additional skills being promised in the next update. The next major update is promising that we are going to have skills to fill in for our animal companions. I believe that this class is going to get much better later on. We have so many different equipment options and all the bows play fairly differently from each other. Thankfully, we have 2 archers in the party, so Clint Barton here is going to be rocking in with the Bow of the Brave, and then Snipe is going to be using the Indomitable One, which is the legendary bow for the Archer. You can acquire this by defeating the Ghost down in Arthas. We are fighting up against a group of enemy legionnaires here, and the general battle plan is to be able to use our horde of boars to get an encirclement here on the idiot, and then see what kind of mega damage we can really dish out with Clint giving them the attack order. Now the piggies are level 4, the enemies are level 4, most of my party is level 5. It actually is really nice feeling a numbers advantage compared to the enemies, which you don't get very often because of the way the game scales. Woo! Oh no, Peppa, we almost lost you because he crit. I was getting really worried there that he'd drop in a single hit, but that's just the risk that you have with the animal companions, is that they are very fragile. You cannot armor them, and armored pigs. If they give us a DLC with armored pigs, I'd be all in on that. But if they drop to 0, they just go straight to dead. They're not dying. You can't pick them up with an application of first aid. You can heal them as long as they are alive. But once they hit 0, that is the end. All right, this guy's having a real bad day. Oh, I can't wait to see what the attack command is really going to be able to do. All right, Clint, this is the moment we've been waiting for. We're going to sidle up to Pumbaa over here because that will allow us to generate a Valor point through Valorous Support, and then I could open up with an attack here out of Clint, but I'm going to use the attack order. So he currently has 15% guard value. Well, let's give the order, see what we've got here. So we gain Fury and attack 1 at a time, all 4 attacks up against him. Oh, if we'd gotten 1 more crit, they would have actually killed him. For a single Valor point, that's really good. It's really hard to measure the logistical cost of capturing and then maintaining all the boars. We'll talk a little bit more about that after this fight, but now let's see. Who do we want Clint to massacre with his bow? Let's go straight over here into the sapper. Ooh, 77, all right. Let's go. And there, at the end of his turn, he healed everybody 5%, so Peppa got 2 health. That's what I was saying about it. It sounds good, but it's not really very good. It sounds better than it is. Snipe just for the sake of the guide here. This is the piercing arrow shot out of the legendary bow. So you get the same path trajectory that you do out of the harpooner specialization for the spearman, where it will guaranteed hit all the units on the path. So I can show it over here. This would actually hit all of our allies, the boars. If we crit, we knock them back and do extra health damage. I'm just going to ping it off over here. I wanted to be able to show off what that damage looks like, even though all our focus here is going to be on what Clint is doing in the battles. I would like to transition the boars to a new target. So let's go ahead. Peppa, you will have your revenge. 12 damage. The boars just on their turn don't do a whole lot. And because they have the wide bases, they'll also get stuck up on each other. And because of their low health, they're kind of a liability in battle. So while attack order feels really good when you get multiple animals engaged around an enemy, having to set that up takes a lot of effort. Alright, this enemy is very low health, so rather than spending all the effort to send more boars across to be able to make the attacks, we're going to hop back into Clint and just do a quick pass by. So we're going to order the attack over here. Peppa is next to him, so she will turn, make the attack, finish off the kill there. Very nice to see. We'll run over here and, wait, can I get it? Give me the spear. Yes! The flimsy spear throw. My strength is so low. Cannot do any damage with that. And then I wanted to finish him off and then potentially go to another target, but we piddled around to be able to get the right position. 88 on a crit when we're galvanized. Clint is just taking them to task. I was not expecting that the most impressive thing about the Beastmaster was going to be his basic attack damage rather than all the animals. You're stealing your own show, Clint. Okay, final round. Let's see what we can show off in these last few turns. We get a big damage out of Loki, and now it is Clint's time to shine. He's going to rush up to this position, be able to make the attack order. Come on, Poke. What have you got for me? Aw, 19. That's not bad. 19 is not too bad out of a basic from just a boar. Basic attack into the Legionnaire, 55 damage, not even a crit. Of course, we are galvanized, so the numbers are gonna look nice. They're gonna look nice. And damage over time finishes him off for a victory for the Beastmaster. Are you kidding me? This gives me the Legion spear? I got the Legion polearm. I filmed the Spearman guide yesterday. I've played this save for 60 hours and never received this. Guys. There's the Beastmaster. He did pretty much as much damage using the Bow of the Brave on his basic attacks as all 4 of his boards did combined with the attack command, which is not boding too well for trying to take this specialization. There certainly is something missing for the power level that the Beastmaster will ultimately have, because the developers are promising that we're going to get these abilities for your recruited animals. And once we get that, I think that this class definitely deserves a revisit, but there is just this really high logistical cost to trying to use the animal companions, and their power level is nowhere near your other companions. They're so fragile, and they're also going to require a lot of medical care because they will so easily drop below half health. That is an extra cost you have to consider. Even though they don't get paid any wages, you are going to be buying a lot of medicine to be able to keep them healthy if you want to use a lot of them. You also have to factor in the fights if you needed to go out and capture them, and then the fact that they do consume 4 units of food. This means that instead of paying them, you're going to have to go into town and go ahead and buy a lot more stacks of food to be able to make your trips. They do actually provide carry weight for the team, which is awesome. And their equipment slot here is the general animal equipment slot, so you can pop saddlebags over onto your wolves, your boars, and be able to get an extra 10 carry weight right there, which is really funny. You have a few things like the tooth collar, and then, do I still have it? If you complete the quest at the juggler's camp, if I pull up the world map, I'll be able to show it off. The juggler's camp up here in Vertruce, you will receive a unique animal item. This is way down the rabbit hole, but I might as well mention it. The Collar of Unity. It will increase the animal damage by 10% if they're standing next to one of your companions. I think we've spent enough time talking around the Beastmaster. He made a good showing in the battle, but I think it is the weakest specialization at the moment. But in the next major update, which is promised within the next few months, we are going to be getting those animal skills, which I think is going to raise the power level of that specialization significantly. The boar shenanigans are gone, and it's time to spec down into Hunter, and then also grab Precision as our class passive. I guess I should note that I'm always taking Valor's support here for Valor point generation. I think that is the default. It's the no-brainer here for the Archer. Very easy for you to be able to accomplish. Valor's Audacity is terrible for them. You do not want them standing next to your enemies, whether they're engaged with them or not. And Valor's Victory, you certainly can make work if you really like basing your party around the Archer and feeding them kills to be able to generate multiple Valor points a turn. That is a great option, but Valor support is just so reliable that I always go back to it. As a hunter, we have picked up recoil shot. We're going to immediately spec in with the mastery point. We get 10 to 18 damage to the target. That is just under 100% of our dexterity as damage, but 10 to 18, that is an enormous range. So the damage here can be all over the place. It will knock the enemy back by 3 meters, which is quite significant, and then will apply slowdown, cutting their movement in half for 2 rounds. This is certainly the build if you want to feel the fantasy of being able to shoot the enemies, push them back, run away so that they can't reach you, and rinse and repeat for the entire battle. Our passive Precision says that every 2 attacks we will apply vulnerability, and as we master it, it means that on that second attack we will also gain Fury for ourselves, increasing our damage of the next attack by 50%. Now, I love vulnerability. Being able to guarantee critical hits on enemies is amazing, and it synergizes so perfectly with the Warbow. This is the bow used by guard captains. When you crit, you get to make a second attack, which is, it is so good. Now, unfortunately, I already showed off what I think is the best bow, being the Bow of the Brave, because it's giving us 20 dexterity. This thing is only giving us 14, and the ratio of dexterity to damage is better for the Bow of the Brave as well. So our basic attacks are not going to look as fancy as they did before, but the real ceiling of our damage is going to be when we can get those crits and roll over into the second attack. I didn't come to show half put together builds, so here we have assigned the pocket knife, giving us increased critical damage by 15%, and we are applying sharpening oil to the bow, which will give us an additional 10% critical hit chance. Clint is also a companion level tinkerer, increasing his critical hit by 5% here again out of the occupation slot. So this is about as good as we can possibly make the build. I should also note that his light armor here, it's only level 4, but it's because I stacked on 2 sets of Hunter's Reinforced layers, increasing his dexterity by 4. Fighting up against a group of guards here, Clint and Jab have been assigned the unenviable position of trying to fend off this corner of the enemy's forces while the rest of us engage, especially with the captain. We have to make sure that we engage with the captain to be able to take away their double bonus to movement, because you can't kite enemies. There's no way to be able to kite against them if they are up at double movement. Now, this little foot soldier thinks that she can try and engage, so we are going to lock in a recoil shot here, be able to get the knockback going. That throws them back. We get the crit just for free, 34 damage, which 34 damage is great. She has 37% guard value, so the 34, if it was on an unarmored target, would be way, way higher. Unfortunately, the basic here does not get the crit. They are only 8 damage, showing the the difference and damage variability. But we do apply vulnerability, and we gain Fury for ourselves for next round. Now we can run back, and if we check the foot soldier's movement, it is pathetic now that they're slowed down, and they keep this slowdown for 2 turns, so they're going nowhere soon. The next enemy to go is this phalanx soldier, so we're going to move jab up. Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll bury the spear into him. We'll give him the knockback. And then, let's see, what is this target going to be? It has to be. It has to be us. So we'll fall back again and use spear wall to try and fend them off. He's trying to cut across. Spear wall stops him in his tracks. I'd say that the two characters playing tandem against this side are doing quite well. On this other flank of the battlefield, I do want to show off using the Legion bow. You get the Overwatch here, so this is what Snipe rocked in with, just to be able to show off all the different equipment options your archer can have. You're able to set up the Overwatch zone, and then if the enemy enters it, you will be able to make an attack of opportunity. Now, of course, Snipe is an infantryman, meaning that for 2 valor points, he has an improved version of this skill already ready to go, and they do not synergize with each other because once you use one, you cannot use the other. But I mean, 2 valor points feels really high, especially if you're not playing in the center around a clump of enemies. So here we're just going to set up the Overwatch, see the 26 damage coming in, and there we go. We get our 2 attacks. Round 2, now this lieutenant wants to make his move. I think that we need Jab to come in and try and fend this off, because if we just apply the knockback and then the slowdown out of Clint, I believe he still would have been able to close with Jab. So we will fall back here and then be able to apply Spear Wall. We want to stay synced up because Jab will gain Brutality when next to an ally. And actually, if we had applied the skill Mastery to Jab's passive, then Clint would also be gaining Brutality. We certainly need to use Recoil Shot against this foot soldier, which is going to give slowdown on him, so now he can't go anywhere. He can't go anywhere because he got hit last time. He's also marked with vulnerability, so this could be our chance to be able to take advantage of that. If we go right now, his buddy is probably going to take the shot for him, so maybe we step up a little bit. We can actually swing Clint all the way around over here. There's not necessarily any reason that we have to travel one direction or another as long as we're staying out of range of these enemies. Let's see if we're able to score the vulnerability. 26 damage and breaking his guard, and then we get 42 damage, so that shows how much his guard value was reducing the crits. Not bad, not bad at all. All right, I'm very curious. Are we gonna get the 2 attacks again? All right, we crit. Yes, why do we get 2 attacks? The tooltip says you get 1. That bow is so much better than I thought. Look at this, Snipe. Shoot order, targets a specific area, performs 1 attack of opportunity, but against both enemies, we have scored 2 hits. I wonder if that is a bug in the tooltip or if that is a bug in the game mechanics, and which way it will get fixed. Here we come to round 3, and this has been Jab and Clint against 4 enemies on this side. So far, the enemies have not scored a single attack. Both of these enemies are on death's door, and one of them is already dead. This lieutenant wants to go next. We're going to go ahead and use Recoil Shot because the base level of damage is going to guarantee finishing him off. We can then swap over to Volley of Arrows, be able to finish off this enemy. Yeah, we got the animation. Piling up the bodies. And then we can run Clint pretty much wherever we want him to be. And then that just leaves Jab to be able to deal with this foot soldier, which we can do quite easily. And yeah, we will step forward just a little bit to apply Spear Wall and catch them up. Yes, the attack of opportunity. Holding him off yet again. So it was 2v4, now it's 2v1, and they still have not even scored a single hit. Ooh, the enemy are demoralized, are they? Well, no, they don't get to get away. All right, Clint, bring us home. Which attack is going to do it? Is it going to be, yes, it is the crit coming through. Man, having Fury being galvanized, we see some insane numbers. That's what a Hunter Pikeman combo can do. They were able to hold off 4 enemies while not taking any damage themselves, and they were still able to burn them down within only a few rounds, dishing out tons of damage out of Recoil Shot, tricked in with Volley of Arrows, synergizing with precision. I really like the way that build comes together. The final build we have to show off is the Infantryman, once again going Valorous support Infantryman, and then we are going to grab up Reinforced Arrows as our passive. Barrage is the most expensive skill in terms of Valor points, costing 2 points. We set up the Overwatch area, similar to what we were able to show off previously with Snipe, and perform opportunity attacks against the first 3 enemies that cross the area. Giving it the Skill Mastery Tome upgrades that to the first 4 enemies, which that feels like a pretty minor update. I feel like for the Mastery, they could have pushed it up maybe even to 5 or 6. Because I find that just getting 3 enemies through the zone is pretty hard. You're going to have to be a positional and tactical genius to be able to pull off 4, and I feel like if you can manage to get even more, I mean, more power to you. I guess the balancing factor they're thinking about here is in fights against plague rats or against swarms of the nature enemies that usually come in very large numbers, then this can get really out of hand if they gave you so many opportunity attacks. But that is a good call out that this skill is amazing when you are clearing out the plague rat hordes. Our passive is Reinforced Arrows. Every time this unit lands a critical hit, they apply bleeding, and as we take the Skill Mastery bonus, critical hit damage bonus is increased by 25%. Now, if you hover over the critical hit tooltip here, you are not going to see your critical damage get updated, but it is applying. I've done testing with and without applying the Skill Mastery, and it does change how much damage your crits do. We're fighting up against another group of Legionnaire enemies here, and what I really like about this deployment, well, 2 things, but one is that we have this deployment zone bordered by rocky outcroppings on either side, forcing the enemies to funnel through a narrow area, which is going to be perfect for setting up the Overwatch on our Infantryman Clint and Snipe. We're going to just make this a serious no-fun zone for the enemies. Also, they deployed with their leader cut off from everybody else, so let's just open up by killing him so they're not getting any of that bonus damage he's trying to grant to the entire team. Oh, 7 health left. Axe, you're losing your edge. Now we let the game begin. So Clint steps up. He is using the stylish bow, which puts out an area of burning and is able to attack multiple enemies. It also has a guaranteed set amount of damage. There's no damage variation, which is kind of nice. It doesn't do a good ratio in terms of dex to converting dex to damage, but being able to apply those status effects is amazing. Now we're going to throw up our Overwatch. We're able to cover the entire entrance into this zone, and the enemies are forced to come into us. So being able to pull off this style of character means that you have to have them in the center of the fighting. You have to have enemies passing through this Overwatch zone to be able to get any use out of it, and that usually means that they are just coming right at you. So you also need a character apiece that is going to be able to protect the archer that the enemies are going to clash with instead of them, because your archers are so flimsy. We are bringing back the dynamic duo of Jab and Clint, though you could easily also swap in a more solid designated tank such as Eowyn here on the swordsman side. But there's some other tricks that having the polearm here with the knockback on his basic attack can pull off, so we're going to try and show that off. And then here Snipe is just going to put a little bit more damage into this guy, and then back up to a slightly safer distance and layer on the Overwatch. With our no fun zone fully established, we just get to watch the carnage ensue. 2 different shots, almost breaking his armor. Oh, he stopped in the fire. Why would you do that? So the crit also applied bleeding. So then the damage over time took away almost half his health. We just kill him with a crit. The damage is insane. And now this guy's like, yep, I'm in trouble. As soon as we push him within the zones, that will trigger attacks of opportunity from both of the infantrymen, though only one was needed to bring him down. And there, I guess Clint just attacks nothing. I didn't know they did that, but yeah, I guess you lose that final attack. So we will break out a little bit from this zone, be able to pick up the spear throw to whittle down this guy. And then I want to use Galvanize. I should probably just fall back and use Galvanize. I mean, I should have just used this before moving him out. But there we go. We get 2 Valor points back because the Valor points expenditure on those Overwatch is so expensive. Then I think what we do is we just come out to the edge of the fire and use Spear Wall, so that as the Legionnaire will try and get across to Jab, he will be stopped in his tracks. The sappers on the enemy team say that 2 can play at this game, laying down their own Overwatches, catching Jab just in the corner of their zones. They are definitely one of the more annoying enemies to have to fight against. Let's see, this Legionnaire wants to go next. Let's go ahead and advance Clint. And we'll see if we can mess around with the AI and get them to make a tactical mistake here. Because usually I find these enemies try... This layering is so good. Burning and bleeding when you crit. We're going to set up our own Overwatch zone right here. It's awkward because of how this rock is. So the play that I am hoping the enemy will make is I find that they usually try and target multiple enemies to catch as many enemies as they can within their Overwatch. And so I want them to advance to be able to get both Jab and Clint in their zone and then be able to walk into his Overwatch zone. Alright, I guess I have it. I don't know if I'm happy with that. We'll see if it works. Meanwhile, Snipe is going to do the exact same thing, sweetening the deal. Hey, if you step in just a little bit closer, you could catch 3 of us within your range. Alright, this little enemy goes. We get the attack from Jab. Just stand very still, my friend. Don't move while their Overwatch is up. Alright, here they go. And he falls for it. Oh, in a single shot, he's brought down. 92 damage? We got 92 on a crit? Okay, we are galvanized. That makes sense. Here comes the next one. Yeah, he steps in. 53 damage. Man, I like that build as well. I think that gives a fair showing for the infantryman. Very valor point hungry, but at the same time, if you get multiple enemies stepping in to take those attacks, it is well worth it. And as I called out earlier, it is so valuable when fighting up against the plague rat nests or against other swarms of enemies. The fights against nature enemies, they usually have overwhelming numbers, and so that means that they're going to be cramming themselves through the zone of Overwatch that you set up more often, and you're often able to get that full value, all the attacks out of that ability. The one bow we didn't get to cover is the knockback bow, the hunter's bow that you pick up off of the poachers, the most common bandits. That's the one that we did not showcase. I think that everybody has seen what it does, and if you like being able to get the disruption from the knockback, you can definitely use that to good effect. Your range of best occupations is Tinkerer, Thief, and Alchemist, all giving a mix of dexterity and critical hit, which the Archer can really feed off of with a lot of their different builds. I don't think the Archer is the best candidate for getting an oil applied to their weapon because they don't generate too many attacks compared to, say, the Berserker, who gets 3 attacks off of a single Valor Point ability. If we get a balance patch, I feel like the Berserker is going to get toned down. But if you are going for a designated critical hit build, the Sharpening Oil is going to be amazing for you, increasing your critical hit by 10% by putting it onto your weapon. Really, really good. Unfortunately, that does lock you into using the specific bow that you put the oil on because, at least at this point in the game, there is a limited amount of pristine essence that you will be able to craft, and thus a limited amount of oils that you will be able to apply. The Archer is a great candidate for being set up as a lieutenant in the party, or even the party captain, being able to use Galvanize and Tactical Order, get the highest benefit when your character is working in close synergy with the other companions, but not engaging enemies themselves, and that fits the bill of what the Archer's game plan is overall. The basic skills that you like to see are Run, to be able to get them out of dangerous situations, help them with kiting a little bit. If they do get engaged, be able to get away because otherwise they just have to use their fists, which do nothing, and First Aid, so that they are able to get around and be able to apply help to those allies. Jumping back to discussing equipment for just a second, the Indomitable One is the legendary item, and I think it's actually take it or leave it as to whether or not you are going to use it. We've got them side by side in inventory here, and it is actually giving 1 less dexterity than the Bow of the Brave, which you can just craft and has your basic attack. The Bow of the Brave has an enormous variance in terms of how much damage it does, but the ceiling of its damage is insane. Meanwhile, the Indomitable One is going to have to be striking multiple enemies to be able to come up to the same level of damage. If you can find the small gauntlet belt accessory, you can do some really fun things with your Archer. This means that you are limited to only taking your base action. You can't do any of these Valor Point actions, but then your damage is increased by 50%. Pairing this with some of the insane damage numbers we've already seen out of the archer, and you can just wipe enemies out in a single shot. So if you have an archer that you just want to be a one-shot wonder, you can go for this and have a ton of fun. Really, this is a decision that you can make depending on the valor point balance in your party. If you have other characters that you're trying to funnel valor points onto, and you know the archer is rarely going to have free valor points to spend on themselves, then you can go for using this item. Otherwise, I feel like we've given a good showing that all of their specialization skills are pretty powerful and definitely worth the valor point cost. While the highest damage ceiling for the archer is going to be coming through the infantryman and then probably taking reinforced arrows like we were able to show off, I just don't like having to spend 2 valor points to be able to set up these overwatch zones, especially when then I watch my own units want to advance and wipe out the enemies ahead so that they're never even getting into the zones. That seems to happen to me a lot. So I either need to work on my tactical positioning, or this skill is just not serving me very well. What I think my favorite build for the archer is grabbing Valor support, Hunter to get recoil shot, and then going down into precision so that you can queue up Fury and vulnerability on the enemy's Fury for yourself. That is the complete guide to the archer. Let me know in the comments if you guys think I missed anything important. I thank you guys for watching. This is the final class guide that I have made, so if you're interested in seeing a guide on any of the other classes, I have videos out just like this one for all of them. Let me know in the comments if there are other Wartales topics you would potentially like to see me tackle. I have a few more video ideas already queued up, so subscribe to the channel if you want to make sure to see my future Wartales content as soon as it comes out. Until then, thank you guys for watching and have a good one.